Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum salam. Welcome to the Young Smirks podcast. It's me, John Fontaine, and we're here with Omar. Assalamu alaikum, Omar.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, make Hijrah. How's everything going? It's been a while since I seen you last. We recorded last time. You was heading out to Egypt. You was kind of between Egypt and Turkey. A lot's changed in the past year. You had your channel, Make Hijrah, and now I keep getting messages, people asking me what's happened to the channel. So I believe it's not online anymore.
Right. Basically, it was close to Eid time. I can't remember the exact date, but I received an email from YouTube saying that your channel has been deleted. You've violated this, that, community, whatever, and just like nonchalantly like that. And then when we went to the channel, everything was gone. You couldn't access it or anything like that. So it was a surprise to us. We never had any strikes or any issues, and couldn't figure it out. So we tried to what do you call it? Like reply to it or whatever. Make a reply to it. We tried several times to do that, and we didn't get any answer. I personally went over the guidelines myself. I'm trying to figure out what guidelines we violated. I couldn't see anything. Then I thought maybe we did a few LGBT videos, but maybe some people could have took offense to it, but I couldn't imagine why they would just take the whole channel down for that. They could have just simply said, could you remove these or whatever. Also, we went about monetizing the channel by just monetizing it, but not monetizing it. I think it's like, you monetize, but you just, every video, you just take the monetization off of it. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I have no clue. I have some speculation, but I don't really know exactly what it was. Even another brother that was a part of the channel early on, he contacted an attorney and drafted up a document, and the attorney submitted that, and we haven't heard anything even from that. So we don't know what happened, And in the beginning, we used to back up the content, and I used to, I would hire my sons to do work on the channel, back stuff up, optimize everything, and so we were able to keep maybe like half of the content, but the other half is completely gone. So we didn't even get a chance to back up. And when I say half is like we had like 500 videos.
Wow, subhanAllah. That's a lot of work.
It's a big chunk, Yeah, it's a lot of work that went into it. Alhamdulillah, ala kulli hal. We didn't take it hard or anything, but when you try to do work, I think part of the confirmation that you're doing something that people benefit from is when you get this opposition, this worldly opposition for it. And then when you look at it, it's like, what are we seeing? It costs $500 a month to live in whatever, and the food costs this, that. But when you're trying to push people to something good, then you start to get opposition. And that's the only thing I can think of. It's not to make us seem holy or anything like that, but it's just to say, what did we do wrong here? We were non-sectarian. Like we didn't. Okay, I have my personal beliefs.
You're literally just telling people how much of a rip-off it is living in the West.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
I mean, a guy contacted me, a brother contacted me and said, look, man, he was going to West Africa. And he said that he had a hard time getting there. He was taking his family there, and he saw a lot of people having trouble, especially Muslims, having trouble leaving the country. They don't stop you, but they can give you a hard time. You know, they can make it a little more difficult for you when you travel. So his idea was that it's too many people leaving. You know, is that true or not? I don't know, but I can say in Egypt, there's more people in Egypt now than I've ever seen before. And I mean,
SubhanAllah.
people from like all walks of life, all many different countries. Like it's filled with foreigners leaving Western countries to come to Muslim countries. So I don't know how much of an impact we had, but people have this idea. They say, "Look, man, it's too difficult to raise our children in the West. They're forcing children to take like this. What do you call it? I don't know what you call it. It's like
we know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So people are like, they said no.
SubhanAllah, is your channel. It wasn't necessarily like a huge channel, but it was having a big impact on the people. It had a very niche market of people who were really considering Hijrah. Have you not thought of starting a new channel and getting it up and running again? I mean, a lot of the Hijrah videos, they kind of they can get out of date as well. Like for instance, when we were talking last time about Turkey, things have totally changed now, and maybe we can speak about that in later in this video. But the visa issues in each country and the situation is constantly changing. So the thing with Hijrah is, a 1 year, 2-year-old video is out of date when you're looking for information about Hijrah. So have you not thought of getting the channel up and running again? Because it was doing a good service.
Yeah. Recently we put out a survey to try to gauge what information is important to people who want to make Hijrah. And it was really insightful because it actually we can go from that survey to provide more content, to build content off of it, instead of kind of guessing what people want. But just to add to your point, if we did a video 2 years ago about the cost of living in Turkey, like that's completely out of date. Even like when I got there, the exchange rate was like, I don't know, 12 or something. I don't know, 12 to $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
And now it's something totally different. Right.
Like 45.
So even see, and even the cost of the rents and everything while we were there, it doubled. The year we renewed our lease, it doubled in price. So to kind of base your Hijrah decision off of a 2-year-old video, that's not a good idea. But it gives you some information that's kind of like it stays the same, but cost of living, even visa stuff, that's always changing.
I mean,
just to add to that,
just
to add to that, no problem. Egypt, for example, now the things we talked about years ago about Egypt should just let you pay to stay, right? Now they're doing that. So you can just go down to the visa office, pay the fee, and then you're in. It's not like Turkey even, where Turkey you have to pay, but they would interview you and why you here and question you about things. Here it's just like pay the money and you stay.
Just to let you know, the situation in Turkey is totally different now. Like literally, if you don't have $200,000 to invest, you might as well forget it. You're not getting a visa. Like that's the situation right now in Turkey. People are being refused. At the most, you might get 3 to 6 month visa, and then you're getting told to leave. There's people who have been here for many years. They're being told to leave. unless you own property and unless you're willing to spend about 200K on property, realistically, it's difficult to live here now. But if you're already in, like myself, and you have a property and you have your visa, then it's easy. It's a great place to live. I mean, I'm gonna say I love it here. It's very cheap, cost of living, very low cost of living, especially if you're earning in pounds and dollars. To be honest, in the pounds and dollars, it's not really changed that much. Of course, rent has gone up, but it was ridiculously cheap to begin with. So I can understand it going up. But at the same time, if you're in, it's great. But the reality is now, I wouldn't advise somebody to think about coming to Turkey on the Hijrah right now unless you have about $200,000 to commit to buying a property. It's just not realistic.
Right.
So that's like Turkey's out right now. If from a Hijrah perspective, it's just not possible unless you're already in.
Right.
But a lot of people have bad image of Egypt, because of the past and from what you've been telling me, and I know other brothers who have moved to Egypt, it's a lot better living now. It's really improved. Maybe you can tell us a
Right.
little bit about how it's going in Egypt.
Okay. This topic can be debated, right? Because you have people that have wonderful experience, and then you have people who have nightmarish experiences, right? And I would say that if you come to Egypt, you have to. Okay, first let's start in general, right? The visa process. The visa right now is just you pay and you're okay. And how much you pay? It would be like for 6 months, roughly about maybe $75 or something like that. And that can change, of course. So every 6 months, you go down and you renew it. The renewal process is just pay, give us the documents and pay. That's how it is. And then there's different type of visas, like if your children are in school or if you're married to Egyptian. The children are in school, it's a year automatic. If you're married to Egyptian, it could be a year to 3 years visa. So the visa process is really easy now. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one thing. Now, living is a different thing. Living is a different thing because of the situation going on in Sudan and
Yeah.
up now in Philistine.
Yeah.
These there are a lot of refugees coming in, and some of them are gangs, or some of them have criminal backgrounds. Like you have some Sudanese from southern Sudan that could walk around with machetes, and so you have this element. And
SubhanAllah.
there was like a war between the Sudanese and the Russians. So, and that lasted however long, and they were attacking each other, and so that
In
was
Egypt.
happening
In Egypt.
in Egypt, yeah. And then you
SubhanAllah.
had the Sudanese versus the Somali, and then you had the Sudanese that attack only the African-looking people. So that could be anybody. That can be American, UK. That can be anybody. If you look like them or the children look like them, they'll try to rob them. Or some people got cut with knives. So
SubhanAllah.
so people can have that experience,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then another people don't even know that's happening, and they're in Egypt too. They're in Cairo. Let's
Yeah, yeah.
even be more specific. So
And of course,
overall,
you've got this. I mean, the situation with Gaza right now as well. I mean, it looks like uh, eventually they're going to have to open the border to Egypt because there's
right,
nothing left. There's hardly anything left of Gaza. I mean,
right,
at least at the very least, if they are going to try and rebuild it, I mean, they
right,
can't live there right now. It's
right.
flattened. So, I mean,
Yeah,
the only place it looks like they're going to be in Egypt. I mean, and that's going to be another issue for Egypt,
it's going to be a big
with the
issue, and
refugees.
then uh,
But people don't realize that might also affect the cost of living as well. I mean, because the same happened in Turkey with the Syrian refugees. You know, like the property rents go up, everything. It becomes difficult for foreigners in general as well. So all these things can affect, you know, the bigger picture as well. Yeah.
Well, see, you just brought up another topic, and it's interesting because just today they floated the Egyptian pound, right? So it was 30, close to 31 for maybe, I don't know, 8 months. Don't quote me on the time frame, but it's around that.
Yeah.
And so you had the official rate of the bank, and then you had the black market rate in the country. Now, the interesting thing is that when we're in Turkey, it would be this amount this day, and the next day it'd be this amount, and then they were just floating it as it went, right?
Yeah.
But Egypt takes this position of just like keeping it stable, even though technically it's another rate, right? So you had this black market that maybe a month ago it was like double the price. Like, so if it's 30 in the bank, it's 60 on the street, and then it even went up to 70 in the street. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
So recently, actually just today, they floated it. So now it's 50. So it went from 30 to 50. Now, the problem with that, the problem with that is that the locals don't earn in USD. They don't earn in dollars or sterling. So for us, it's like it's 50, so what? Yeah. But for them, the prices are going to reflect that new rate, which is going to make it harder for people to get the basic needs, which that can result in more crime and more like some people, like before they'll beg you in the street. Now they might try to take it from you. It's a little, it changes the dynamic, and we still have to see what's going to happen. But inshallah, we pray that everything goes well. But with these problems, if you live isolated somewhere, you live with people that are higher class, you know, higher earners or whatever, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Like if you're in a compound or somewhere out in New Cairo, suburb, something, you're okay. But a lot of people choose to go to Nasser City. And Nasser City is filled with foreigners from everywhere. So recently, with this dollar issue, everybody was exchanging. They would get dollars and they would exchange it in the black market. So it became this big, everybody knows about it. It's not nothing hidden. People walk up to you and ask if you have dollars. So they wanted to crack down on this exchanging on the black market. So they started to stop people in the cars, search and see if people had dollars. Some people had their houses, kick the door down and go inside and checking dollars in the house, and that type of stuff was going on.
Is this the police or gangsters or what?
No, the police.
Police, yeah. And would the police taking the dollars?
Say again?
Would the police take the dollars if they found it?
They'll take it, yeah. They'll take it. If you can't show where you got this from. It wasn't really directed at foreigners so much as Egyptians that were doing it. The foreigners can just like, I didn't know, you know, they can say they have an excuse like, well, we didn't know there was going. Some guy just asked me if I had dollars and I did, you know. But to crack down, they wanted to scare everybody. You know, don't sell it and don't buy it. You know, kind of like that. So you have these stories coming out that people had their house, the police came into the house and looked around, but it's from something. It's not like random. Maybe they saw him on the street doing something, or somebody tipped them off and all that, and then that happened. So just to let you know, it's not like just random everybody. It's not like that. And then also there was a viral audio clip of a brother that got arrested. I'm not sure if you heard it or not. I can send it to you, inshallah, if you wanted to play it here. But basically, he was arrested coming out the masjid, him and a few other brothers, and they put them in the prison, and then they were deported out of the country. And one of the brothers, his children were in the daycare, and they didn't care that his children were there or what have you. So you're going to hear these stories. But the thing about it is that I would, if anybody I'm not advising anyone to come to Egypt like that, but I would say, talk to some people here. Get a full perspective of what's going on before you make a decision to just come and jump in and bring your kids in.
I mean, for somebody who's a bit more well-traveled like yourself, someone who's been there before, somebody who knows how things are, like you expect that sometimes things don't work out. You might have to leave the country. For them type of people, it's probably okay. But for people who are not used to traveling and they've got a big family, they shouldn't just be turning up.
No. Don't turn up anywhere. Don't turn up anywhere. You have to do the due diligence, really. You have to go. You have to talk to people, especially if you have a family. Maybe if you're a solo guy, it's not so big of a deal. But you still, even as a solo guy, you should know what's going on and where to live and where's a safe area. And because again, even though we have those stories, Egypt is still a very safe place. Like I can't compare it to where I come from. It's, you can walk out at night. The women can walk out, and there's stories with that, even like women getting into Ubers and then the Uber driver trying to assault them and this type. You have these stories. But the overwhelming situation. So if you have 1,000 stories, 3 of them are bad. So it's
same. It's the same in Turkey. There's a lot of stories about racism here and things like that. And there's a lot of tension between the Turks and the Syrians. It's kind of understandable because when you put 4 to 5 to 6 million Syrians into a country just in so quickly, it's going to have a huge effect when two people don't speak the same language, different culture, different ideas of Islam. People coming from such a traumatic background of living in Syria for the past, the war for the past 10 years and more. People have got problems, and there's going to be issues when you've got, and same in Egypt with the Sudanese and Gaza, etc. These things are bound to cause issues. But at the same time, it's not that bad. When you live here, you speak to Arabs here, you speak to Syrians, they're fine. You do get the odd story, but it doesn't really reflect really what's going on the ground. And if you compare it to somewhere like where I'm from in the UK, the Muslims get attacked and problems every single day. I mean, so it's nothing really compared to that. But so in terms of
go ahead.
In terms of living in Egypt, I think you've got these nice new kind of cities and gated communities. Like you said, they're a bit more better kind of living. But how much does it cost to live in that type of environment? What you're looking at, really.
Honestly, man, like in Nasser City, it's not cheap to live. Like, and I would say that if you look well enough, you'll find cheaper accommodation in these newer areas. So, but a lot of people are not, like, people come, if you go online and you're looking and where are the centers and where are this and that, you're gonna find it mainly in Nasser City.
Well, Nasser City is Nasser City is more. It's not like gated communities, is it? No. It's more like
Nasser City is like how can you say it? It's like an area, maybe like I don't know so you have London and then you have like areas in London. Like that. It's just an area. So it's it's not like you enter into a gate and then you come in. No, you just drive past. Now you're in Nasser City, you drive out and now you're somewhere else. Right. So but the compounds are different. The compounds, you enter into a gate. And it can be a huge compound. Inside the compound is a city. But you can't get in unless you enter into a gate. And there are guards and And then every area you have guards and places, I don't know what you call those things for the car to come past. And you have those different things, security things there that people can't come in there and do anything. Like you have a really hard time doing something and then leaving. You can't even move your own furniture out. Like you have to get permission from the city, and then the guard is going to show the permission, and then the truck. It's something totally different. Nassau City, if you, let's say you want to leave and you don't want to tell the landlord, you just get a truck and take your stuff and leave. Like there's no one there to stop you. But they do have in the buildings, they have what they call a bawab. It's like a guard.
Yeah.
But he's like a villager guy that's just sitting there in the building.
He's just sleeping.
He's not
he's sleeping.
Yeah, it's different.
He's sleeping.
But again, like it's not perfect. But if you talk to the right people, like you can avoid a lot of the problems that people are facing, like getting stopped by the police and picked up. And sometimes you don't get the whole story. Like how did you deal with them? Because you'll hear brothers that like my age, like older brothers that when the police come and they talk, they like you can say here in Egypt, you can go to an officer and say, Assalamu alaikum, such and such, and he'd be like, wa alaikum salam, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and this. It's different. But if you are rude, you're gonna have a problem. He'll make it as hard as he can. Like he'll make it hard for you, and then you'll complain later that they did this to me and they took me to this jail. But a lot of time, I'm not saying all the time, but many times it's you.
Yeah. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes we forget when we go, because we're coming from the West, right? Where majority non-Muslims where we're from. And we forget that when we go into these Muslim communities, whether it's Turkey or Egypt, wherever, we forget that people are actually Muslim. That you can't act like you do back home, because you have to remember to say salam. For instance, you can't just walk into an office and start demanding what you need. You have to greet them, assalamu alaikum, things like that. And in these countries, like you say, the police are not necessarily your enemy. Like, the other day, I love it. I was driving down the wrong way in the street, right? And then the policeman's flashing me, basically telling me to hurry up, and he just, he's not so strict. He's just allowing it. He's like just going with the situation. There's no crime happened, it's just, and there's that flexibility a lot of the time in Muslim countries. And sometimes we just get our backup very quickly, whether it's with an immigration officer or whether it's with the police, and that can spoil everything. You have the wrong argument with the immigration officer, you're not staying long.
He can make he can make the decision to say you have to leave.
Yeah.
There's something else. There's a story when we were in Konya. Somebody called me and said, "Okay, I'm the police. I'll need you to come here to such and such." And I said, "That's weird. Why would the police call me? How do they know my number?" So I started to ask around about it, ask other people that are there, and they said, some people, they call you and they get you to come to a place and they come into your house when you leave, and these type of stories, and they don't call from these type of numbers and blah blah blah. So I had people call, and I come to find out that it is the police. It's an actual police officer.
Yeah.
So when I went down, I was kind of like in America for some reason. So I'm thinking like, okay, what are these guys trying to do? And I'm really cautious and everything. I get out, the guy's super nice. He said, "Oh, you moved to this area. We just want to register you in this, that, and the other. You want some coffee? You want not coffee, tea. They drink tea. You want some teas?" I said, "No, I really don't want." He brought the tea anyway and gave it to me. He said, "Oh, just sit here for a second. We're just going to check this, that."
MashaAllah.
"Oh, by the way, you're from America. Do you have this? And can you talk to somebody? Because my cousin wants to." It was just totally different experience.
Yeah.
So, you have to understand that, like in the States, you feel like the police, especially if you're in crime high crime areas, the police are not your friend.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they want to bother you. So a lot of us, if some people have a level head and they just, you know, trying to deal with it, and other people they start talking bad and I'm not listening to you. I don't have to do this, that, and the other, and that's just going to make a problem for you.
yeah, yeah,
If you're calm and you're
yeah,
calm and you show respect and you laugh, even the laugh can get you off because it's his
yeah,
choice at the end. He can just let you go. He could say,
yeah,
"Oh man, okay, go ahead, just go." And that happened to a friend of mine. And then other people, they're rough and tough, and they say, "Okay, well, let's see how rough you're going to be.
yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to put you over here.
And
Let's see."
yeah, and you don't want to do that to an Arab. You don't want to be
No,
playing
you
with an
don't.
Arab like that. You know, the
You look. Check this out. The Sudanese targeted these particular Sudanese. I'm not speaking of all of them because you have different. You have some from South Sudan and whatever. So the ones generally from South Sudan is some young guys. Then they make gangs and stuff like that, and they tend to target people that look like them. Like in their mind, you're African like I am,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they won't deal with the Egyptians the same way.
yeah,
And that makes sense. It's because, well, I'm in Egypt, right?
yeah, yeah,
So if I start attacking the Egyptians,
yeah.
I won't last long if I do that,
It's the
right?
same in
So
in parts of Africa, right? When if I go there, it's actually so safe because no one would
right,
even dream of touching the white guy
right,
because they think the government are going to come and
right,
get me, you know. But other parts of Africa,
mm,
you don't last 2 minutes, you be kidnapped,
right,
you
right,
know. So you have to
right,
know, like you say, it depends on the culture and what's going on. So,
yeah,
in these new cities, like you said, there's these nice kind of gated communities. Do they still have like mosques and Quran and Arabic access to learning and studying and things like that, or do you have to come out of them and start traveling to the area where these things are taking place?
bro. That's one thing about Egypt that, and I don't know who's doing it. Culture, I have no idea. But if you go to these places, they have some of the most beautiful mosques, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So let's give an example. Like it's a place called Rahab. That's pretty famous for anybody that looked into Egypt, right? You go down this, it's a main street. You go down the main street. Literally every 5 minutes, there's a big mosque.
Mm,
Not not like a little one musalla thing. No, big mosque, and
yeah.
it's all up and down that street. So people they can come from outside into the main street and they'll find a mosque.
Mm,
So that's Rahab. If you go to Medinati, which is a little further out, and it's bigger than Rahab actually. How they made it because they looked at Rahab and Rahab's streets are kind of small. So if you go there now, it's like crowded, packed, trying to get from place to place. But in Medinati, they widen the streets, they widen the spaces between villas and stuff like that, and then they have a whole area for apartments and everything. Anyway, in each area, there's the essential needs. That's the grocery stores,
mm.
pharmacy, mosque.
Yeah.
So, and the mosque is built from the ground
The,
up. It's
th-
not, again,
this
it's not like an
this
underground
might
thing.
sound like a stupid question, but do they close the
Uh,
mosques? Because in I just went to Morocco and literally straight after the Salah, they close the masjid. Like if you miss the Jamaat, you're gonna struggle to pray in Morocco anywhere.
right.
It's it's a
You
it's a
can't,
real pain.
Egypt, bro, listen, okay, if you're talking about these new areas, I would say it depends.
Mm,
Like because sometimes they can leave the mosque open like between Maghrib and Isha.
yeah.
So they say some people just stay in the mosque between that time and they read Quran and they do things, they don't close it.
Mm,
But let's say Fajr to Dhuhr,
yeah,
it'd
yeah,
probably
yeah.
be closed, you know, or maybe it'll stay open after Dhuhr a little bit and then close and then open for Asr. But it all depends on the mosque, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if you go outside of these new areas and you go to the older areas, it's random. because in some places you have a lot of lessons going on, or you have children learning, or you have, I mean, it's that's one thing about Egypt that's amazing. You have these traditional things going on, and nobody has a problem with that. It's like, and they send their children there and they support it financially or whatever. But you have to look for it. It's not because there's so many mosques and musallas. We call it musalla, like a little place, just under the building or whatever. It's so many of those, man. And it just all depends on that particular one. But in the newer places, there are mosques. There are a lot of mosques, and it depends on that area that you're in whether or not it's going to be open throughout the day. But one thing I'll say about Turkey that I thought was beautiful is that the mosque is open.
Always open.
I'm not sure if it's like that in Warsaw. But there, the door can be closed, but the mosque is open.
You can
go to the mosque anytime.
Alhamdulillah. Here, they usually have a security guard on most of the big mosques, and most of the mosques are open all the time. I mean, they might close after Fajr, till about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. But then they generally open all day, which is, it's good. It's good. There's that flexibility because, it's an important, it's one of the reasons for making Hijrah, having access to the mosque. And I really did feel it in Morocco. Literally, if you missed the Jamaat, you will be praying on the street, and Morocco isn't the cleanest of places on the street. It can be difficult, especially for women as well. You need access to the mosque. They're very, very quick to close straight after the salah. Literally, getting people out very quickly. So things have been changing since we first met a few years ago. What would be your top 5 places for Hijrah in 2024? Because mine has totally changed. I don't know about you.
Right. I won't put them in any specific order, right? But let me start off with Saudi Arabia, and I have to investigate further. But there are brothers that have been able to get a 10-year visa there. I'm not sure if they have to go and come, but that's changing, and it's changing quickly. So I would put Saudi Arabia in there. I'm not sure how many people have had a chance. Many people probably made Hajj and everything, but it's a little different outside of that, right? So of course, it doesn't get more. I want to say holy, but that's not right. That's probably not the right word. But like in terms of sites, I mean, if you get the right person to take you around to tell you, okay, this thing happened here, this happened here, historical Islamic events that happened, and so you're right there where things happened, right? So that I'm speaking specifically Mecca. And then if you go to Medina, then of course they say, okay, this one lived here, this happened here. Then they have the museums and everything where you can see what it looked like then and how it expanded out and everything. So that's from a deen perspective. Of course, you can go to Masjid al-Nabawi and sit, and they have circles of knowledge and everything going on. Of course, in Mecca. So that's that. But then you can go also and get a touch of, if you want to do business and stuff like that, to Riyadh and Jeddah and that kind of thing. So, Saudi Arabia is definitely in the top. And because it's,
I want to say something about Saudi as well. I mean, of course, we're all seeing the changes online. We don't need to go into detail about that. And but without sounding like I'm in favor of it, of course we're not. It's not as bad as people are making out. I don't want to really belittle what's going on. I don't want to sound like that. But
Right.
because it's in the Holy Land, we're really
Yeah.
not happy about it. But it's
Right.
still nothing compared to what's going on in every single Muslim country in the world and the Western countries. I mean, their kind of concerts are like what we would say are like a 10-year, 11-year-old kid would go to. I mean, you see, I mean, I'm not trying to justify it. I don't like it. But
Right.
when you compare it to the West, when you compare it to other Muslim countries, it's still a lot better.
Right.
But it's just that it's changed so quickly. When I first went to
Right.
Saudi like 14, 15 years ago, it was a different place. Now I remember I went in a couple of years ago, I went to Riyadh, and a Niqabi woman tried to pick me up in an Uber. She's an Uber driver. I was like, what is this? That was strange. Um, that's like a big difference. But as I said, without going into too much detail, Saudi is still a good place to live. I mean, I don't know, it seems to be open for business from what I'm hearing from my friends who are involved in business there. Visa
Right.
wise, it seems to be opening up, and it's still fairly cheap compared to a lot of the Gulf.
Right.
Rental and things like that is still, and cost of living you can do a cheap cost of living if need be.
Right.
So definitely, I would agree with you. I think Saudi is something to definitely look into. Um,
Yeah, just to add to that, man, I didn't mention those things, right? And I'm talking about the concerts and whatever else is going on. Like you may see a non-Muslim in Medina walking around, or you know. So again, like I didn't mention those things because a lot of times I think people are thinking they're thinking like from 30,000 feet. It's like, but in reality, you're in this area. Like
yeah,
you live here and you go here, and if nobody talked about the concert, you wouldn't even know it's a concert happening.
yeah, you won't even know. Yeah,
So you have to kind of look on a community level for the most part. It's not to say that we don't care about what's going on in the Muslim countries, etc. But it's kind of like you're in Bursa right now.
yeah,
So if I told you something that's happening in Cunha, you say, "Oh, that's bad," but it's not really affecting what's happening where you're at. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
again, it's not to be selfish, but to make a big deal out of the concert that just happened in Cunha, or it's like, come on, bro. Like
yeah,
again, I don't agree with it.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, Islamically, it's problematic, but at the same time, we're not focusing on our sphere of influence. Our
yeah,
sphere of influence, my children, my parents, my this, that, you know what I mean? And then my
yeah,
neighbors. And so again, it's not to downplay that at all. It's not to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
downplay
yeah,
the Islamic world's politics and everything, but it's just to say, like, man, like you have to deal with the things that you have control over.
yeah, yeah,
And if your daughter is going to the concert, now we got a problem.
yeah, yeah,
Now you should have stopped her from doing that, or etc. Can you speak up against it? What's going to be the benefit of you speaking against it when we all know that it's not good? Like it's not.
yeah, yeah,
It's really. It's not like you agree with it and I disagree. We both disagree. So what are we talking
yeah.
about? So anyway, man, I hate to take
Like you
that
say,
approach,
you
but
go you go anywhere, any country in the world, when we're talking about Hijrah, we don't start speaking about downtown Soho in
yeah,
Istanbul or whatever you want to call it, or
yeah,
the equivalent in Pakistan or Egypt, or even Marrakesh.
right,
It doesn't affect us because we're not going to these places.
right.
But yeah, definitely. But I think sometimes people can look at the media and it's just easier to cross Saudi off the list because of what they're seeing. When, like you said, in reality, it doesn't really affect you
Bro,
on
man,
the
we
scale.
we were just there, and even though those things are happening, I couldn't see anything. But it doesn't. And then here's something else about Saudi Arabia, man. Because before, I felt that the people I met were very arrogant.
Yeah.
And then I thought that, and this was my fault because I didn't research enough, but I thought that these most of the guys are rich, and that's not true at all.
No, not
Like you'll
Saudi.
find a Saudi taxi driver and a
Yeah.
Saudi doing. So that's maybe you're thinking of Kuwait or some other place where maybe the locals have these big benefits and they're well off and all that, but Saudi is not like that, man. You find every level of
Yeah.
people, you'll find people very humble and nice and religious and this, and then you would find like maybe the arrogant one and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But you can't just paint it all with one big broad brush. You have to. That's another important point of like going to check places out, because maybe you'll leave out with a different impression. Like I wouldn't have put Saudi on the first thing I said maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'd have said, man, I don't know if I can deal with the people that are like that, but that's not even the case, man. It's not like
another thing
I have to go.
Another thing I want to mention as well is, a lot of people think, oh, well, if we're going to go to Saudi, it's going to be in Mecca and Medina. That might not be the right choice. As I said, I've experienced a small time living in Medina, spending a lot of time in Mecca. It's different when you go into Umrah for 2 weeks and you're in that kind of 2-week ibadah zone, making the most of it. But when you get out of that square mile of the mosque, and you just get into a normal city of Medina, it's like I mean, it's Medina. We love Medina, but it has everything what a normal city has, and sometimes you might need other things as well. If you've got a family, you might need a place like Jeddah, to have certain entertainment and business access to these things. So, it's just something to think about, that it's not always, sometimes just living in Saudi, having access to Mecca and Medina weekends, once a month, or a lot of people in Jeddah travel to Mecca every Friday, for the Jummah. Just having that access to the mosques helps. And we're not necessarily having to live in Mecca and Medina, because living in other cities they're still very religious. Like you said, there's mosques everywhere. A lot of the time they stay open as well. It's good. So
yeah. So these are not in any particular order again, but Malaysia is still there.
Yeah,
Malaysia is still is top on the list.
Last time I spoke to you, Malaysia was having issues with visas. What's the latest with the visa issue?
Well, it's back. It's open again. The visa problem came mainly from the COVID situation, but now my son and his wife just went, and they stayed there. They stayed there for like a month, and yeah, I mean Malaysia's very nice. If you can, again, you have to go and look around, because you have places there that are really mixed with Hindus and Chinese and whatever, Indians and everything. Which Indians, I shouldn't say Indians because Indians are Muslim and Hindu or whatever. But so that can be a culture shock coming from where we come from, where well, maybe I'm not sure about UK because I know there's a lot of Indians there as well.
No,
but
to be honest, I was a bit culture shocked when I went to Malaysia, because it's people might not know, but it's like 50% Malaysian Muslims, and you're talking about 25% Indian Hindus, 25% Chinese Buddhists, practicing Buddhists, people who actually believe in Buddhism, and seeing the Hindu idols and temples, I really didn't like it. It was dirty. It was very dirty, and I don't know, Malaysia. It was nice, but for me personally, I just didn't click with the culture. I'm more familiar with the Arab and the African culture, North Africa, West African, East African, and Arab culture. I'm comfortable in
Right.
these places, but I just didn't click with Malaysia. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get away from there. You have to
Yeah.
go to the places where the Muslims are the majority, and
Yeah.
then in those areas, the Malaysians have very good character. Anybody that has dealt with them, um, they have really good character. The country is, in some places, in most of the big cities, is fairly clean and modern. You know, so and it's peaceful.
Yeah.
Found that people were welcoming to us, and so I mean, Malaysia's there.
Yeah.
And as far as visas are concerned, like you would have to have like some type of what do you call it, remote work or something like that, because you can get a visa as a freelancer, and they have visa options. Sometimes they're really strict with paperwork, so you have to prove it. You have to prove that you make the money from this and get a letter from this one and
Yeah.
that one. But once you do it, um, once you get in there and you have the visa, you're pretty much stable, and you just have to renew it. You
Mashallah.
know, so Malaysia's on the list. I'm not saying it's number two, but it's
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Another one would be Gambia, but that's a hard one. That's not an easy one.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in like a rural lifestyle, maybe a slower life, Gambia is good because uh, there are some religious elements there. They have schools there. Uh, the visa is relatively easy to get. You
Yeah.
can get some some um, some good, fairly good things for your money. You know,
Yeah.
there are some downsides though.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to McDonald's, you're not going to Burger King, all that stuff. Forget about it.
It's
Big
very safe
mall.
as well. It's
Yeah,
very safe, Gambia. Yeah.
I mean, people have stories, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like if a person wants to go, maybe buy some land or build a house or do something like that, and just like kind of retire and live off the grid, and maybe have fresh vegetables and fruits and blah blah blah. I think Gambia is a good
Yeah.
option. And I know you were just visiting there, maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
what was it,
Yeah.
a year ago?
I've been to Gambia a lot. I've traveled there a lot. Even before I was a Muslim, I've been to Gambia.
Mm,
It's a great. I mean, they're good, they're very nice people, very safe, very religious.
mm,
You're going to be able to find Quran schools. You could even learn Arabic there very easily. There'll be teachers there and things like that. And there is a growing Western community, Muslims,
mm,
from the States, from the West. And I've met a lot of the brothers there, and alhamdulillah, they've got a good community going on. For me,
mm.
I find it a bit small.
Okay.
For me, if I'm going to go to West Africa, it would be probably Ghana, uh,
Mm,
or Senegal. But Senegal, they speak
mm.
more French, but it's a bit bigger,
Right.
a few more
It's
opportunities. But yeah, definitely Gambia's they're definitely on the list for possibilities. Like you said, it's safe and very easy to access. Yeah. What other?
so that's three, right?
Yeah.
That's three. So we have Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Gambia, and not any particular order.
Mm,
Uh, I would put Egypt on the list.
yeah.
I would put Egypt on the list. But you have to go first.
Yeah.
Whoever
Yeah.
whoever wants to try to do that, they need to come first. The visas are a lot easier now. Uh, the country's in kind of like a state of, there's opportunity. Like if you have just a little bit of money, you don't need a lot of money. You could purchase something here, a flat or an
Mhm.
apartment. They have uh, plans that are with no interest, of course. where you just put a certain amount down and you pay a certain amount a month, and then you pay something yearly, and you can have a ice flat. And then you can even go and buy something, that's not as nice, but you own it. You can find something, pay cash, 500,000 Egyptian pounds, $10,000 even.
Oh yeah.
And something. Yeah. So, and also the thing is, Egyptians, if you meet the right Egyptians, you have a real loyal friend. So they'll help you.
There's some
with no.
Have you traveled to different cities like Tanta and Alexandria? What about these cities?
Yeah, I've been to Alex is probably the second choice.
Yeah.
Even though you can find places in Alexandria that are actually, you don't. My children went to a school, or they were in an area near the beach in Alex for a few years, and we had to go. I wanted to bring them back to Cairo, so we had to go to a like the school administration or something like that. So when we went there, the whole situation was completely different than what I was used to. Like, it was very clean.
Yeah.
And anybody that's been to knows Cairo is really, there's too many people here and everything. But that place, it wasn't that many people. Everything was really super clean. You had stop and go lights. You had these things that you didn't think was there. So to say, if you explore outside, you can find some really nice places. And then also, you don't have the same problems the Cairo people would have with maybe the police have to crack down on something and they have to just gather whoever's there. In these places, you can just go, you blend in there, you live your life. But that's a more adventurous type person. If they can live without having a bunch of foreigners around them and things like that, you can find some really nice, livable places with really nice people, different Cairo people. So Alex is a good place to explore. But you have Tanta. I've been to Tanta, and but that's more. It's a city, but it's more villagey.
Yeah.
So you're not going to find again Hardee's. Maybe now you would, but back then you just go there. It's all local stuff, and that's fine. It's just it depends on what you're looking for. But you have to be able to deal with the village.
You mentioned Hardee's. You mentioned Hardee's. You know that there's a Hardee's near Azhar University across the road. That's where I took Shahada.
By the way, we right now we're not eating at these places. Just as a side note, just mentioning the names. We're not promoting those. We're promoting the local the local restaurants and the local, even they have local soda pops and whatever. So we promote things just to be in solidarity with
so far you got you've mentioned Saudi, Malaysia, Gambia, Egypt. What would be your last? What would be the?
How many is that? 4? That's 4.
See, the reason I'm asking you is because you've got a lot of experience in traveling, and obviously you've interviewed tons of people about Hijrah, and I know you're really up to date with how things are going. And what it is just there's so many videos online at the moment. People have they've traveled for the first time, and they found their place, right? And that's it. It's the only place for them. Whether they've gone to Medina or Saudi or UAE or even Turkey, you got people still promoting Turkey, and it's just not a lot of the advice online. I don't find it realistic at all.
Bro, so let me look. Oh, UAE. I left out UAE.
Yeah.
UAE, because of the visa options in the UAE.
Yeah.
You have a range of options. It's more expensive, but not necessarily, because you can go to Sharjah or you can go to Ajman or someplace and find something reasonable. But UAE is definitely an option. But I want to say something too, bro. So those are 5, right?
Yeah.
You have Saudi Arabia in no particular order: Saudi Arabia, Malaysia,
Gambia,
Egypt, and
UAE.
UAE.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to present a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on the size of your family. It depends on your resources. Okay. But it's no reason why we should be tied down to one particular place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see in this day and time where travel is not as hard. Imagine before, some people weren't tied down when they had to ride a camel somewhere or walk, you
Yeah.
know, they weren't tied down then. So why are we tied down now where I can literally book a flight now and for $100, 100 and some dollars, and go to Saudi Arabia right now from here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pay 200 and be in Istanbul in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea of just being tied and locked down to a place is I don't think that's a good strategy. Like,
Yeah.
again, it depends on your family size. It depends on if you're married in the country. It depends. It's a lot of factors. But if a person is maybe him and his wife, or him a solo person, he should dock down in Egypt for a few months,
Yeah.
maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Get what he can from being there. The experience this place. That's why I mentioned Saudi Arabia is like the pinnacle of holy sites, right?
Yeah.
But in every Muslim country, there are sites.
Yeah.
Every single one. Like,
Yeah.
this one was here. This battle took place. This happened here. So for a person to come to a place like Egypt, for example, and not visit Old Cairo, not that your intention is to come to visit Old Cairo, but you're here, so why not go visit Old Cairo?
Yeah.
And you'll find Old Cairo has amazing sites
Yeah.
that you, wow, Imam Shafi was here, and
Mashallah.
Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani was here, and on and on. You have
Firaun was
Sahabi
there.
Amr bin As. I mean, even so you can look at it. You be like, whoa, wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Salahuddin was here,
Yeah.
and this is the what do you call it? The Kala, the citadel, and but I'm just saying, like,
that's great advice. I mean, I've traveled.
I didn't do it until later.
Yeah.
I didn't start doing it until later on, and I realized, like, I missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
Just history wise.
Yeah.
And then you start to appreciate the land and the culture a lot more. But that's one thing. That's one place. So if you came to Egypt, get what you can out of it.
Yeah.
Get learn Arabic. They're masters of Tajweed here.
Yeah.
Quran is, and I think people take it for granted. You get in a taxi in the morning, everybody in the morning, they're playing Quran.
Yeah.
You're going to a shop, playing Quran.
SubhanAllah, I've traveled to over 80 countries, and it's this is very good advice what you're saying. Especially if you're a single person, if you're single, or even if you're married, even if you have one child, right? And you're not expected to, you're not stuck by buying a property in a certain country or something like that, and your income's, working online, for instance. You need to travel, like you said, everyone can come to Turkey and do 3 months. It's open to every Western country can come and live here for 3 months without a visa. After that, you can go to, like you said, go to Egypt, go to Saudi for a few months, go to Morocco, go travel the whole of Africa, travel to the Far East, and you'll experience so much more. And you realize that some things you will like and some things you won't like. You will connect with certain cultures. You will connect with certain types of Islam, even. And you'll find where you fit in. And then later in life, your family's bigger. You want to settle down. Like now, to be honest, I'm not. I don't like traveling as much. Because everywhere I go, I don't. Like you said, you see the history and everything, and you see all the sites. I feel like it's rare that I find something that is new now. You know, it's like something that impresses me, because I've seen a lot. But when you get to that stage, you can think about, okay, well, you know, I had a good time in this country, this country. You can think where you can imagine settling down with your family in the long run. And even then, you shouldn't see everything as a final destination. Like, you know, I'm living here in Turkey now, but I'm not saying that this is final destination. Things might change in the next 5 to 10 years. Children get older. You know, you have to keep an eye on what's out there, and be willing to travel.
Right.
You know, like I said, the Prophet said, live as a traveler. You know, don't get tied down with things. You know, owning stuff. You know, live out of a suitcase to a certain extent, especially if you've got that income coming from online. You're so much more flexible.
See, you mentioned the 5 places, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many places to go and visit, right? That's why I made that last point. Like, if you can afford, and there's ways to do it, by the way. It's not you don't come to a place and get bogged down with the buying new stuff and buying this, that, and then deplete your resources. Like, you can even come to a place that has furniture, a furnished place. As a matter of fact, when we went to Malaysia, we got an Airbnb, and we ended up just staying there. And we stayed there for 2 years. So so that can happen. And even my mother was there, and her house was partially furnished. So, like, when it's time to go, it's just pack your suitcases and go. So I'm just saying that to say, and then, like you said, once you get of age, like me, I don't like being on a plane as much anymore. Like, where else I would have been, other places I would have traveled more. But it's getting to be, there's a lot just going here and there. But saying that to say, if you have those experiences, it's easier for you to choose a place that you might want to live long term.
Definitely.
Because you've been there, you've been to Egypt, you've been to this one, you've been to Saudi Arabia, you've been there. And then as time goes on, the opportunity to live there grows. Like, you couldn't go to Saudi Arabia now, even 10 years ago, like you can now. You know, so now it's just get your visa online. The visa's good for a year, and just go. Just show up. And even some of my family members, they went just on a whim. Like, you know what? I'm gonna take my wife over here. Bam, they just go. So without the online thing, they just show up at the airport and they can get it at the airport. So anyway, saying that to say, I think as time goes on, places will become open more. And you have some of these places that are closed and they're not used to foreigners being there. So sometimes you may have a harder time in those places. But as more people go and more people visit, they become open to understanding and you know, foreign culture and blah blah blah, and seeing you and understanding you. You know what I mean?
You know, I just want to mention a few places just to add on to your 5.
Sure.
Just as a general thing, I think if you're coming from the West and you have some sort of qualifications, whether it's teaching English, teaching anything in schools, or an engineer, and you can get a job in the Middle East, this could be a very good option for you, because you know, you could live a very comfortable life in places like Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, even Saudi and Oman. You know, the whole Gulf opens up to you, and you can get a very high income, tax-free usually, and sometimes it comes with accommodation. You know, it comes with the house and bills paid. But the only issue with that is that one day you will have to leave the country. You know, like most of the time, if you are working in these countries, if you get to the age of, I think, 55, usually they don't renew your visa. It's like, and it's literally you're going home and you've not been back in the UK for 30, 40 years, 30 years even. You know, and I know people that's happened to, and they end up going back to the UK and they don't know what to do with themselves. So you know, look at that even if you're not earning so online, you might not be as flexible to be able to just go to Gambia or you know, Saudi or the Far East on a whim because you're not earning online. But if you have qualifications,
Right.
you can still find work in the Gulf very easily. I don't know how it is in other countries. I don't know about the Far East, how it is and in Africa working. But I know in the Gulf there is a lot of jobs for people who are qualified. So that's something to bear in mind. And also,
Right.
not so much Qatar and Kuwait if you're earning online because it's very expensive. You know,
Right.
I think you probably choose Riyadh or Jeddah over Qatar and Kuwait if you're earning online.
Right.
But there's also Oman. Oman is a lot cheaper to live as well.
Right.
That's somewhere was you know, again, nice people.
Right.
Mostly Ibadi Muslims though, you know, that's something to consider and think about as well. But
Right.
also I'd say to people to think about uh, you know, I mean, in the Far East, even though it's not something I would choose myself, I think also Indonesia is a nice place. And that was probably
Right.
my favorite place in the Far East.
Right.
And for Africa, I think you know, like Kenya, Mombasa, Nairobi, even Uganda. I lived in Uganda. You know, you have large populations of Muslims, but very nice places to live. But you know,
Awesome.
the world is big, and as you said, if you have chance, go and explore the world, learn more about Islam, find out, you know, where you fit in, and
Right.
you know, it's not like you've got to pick a place and stick to it. You know, if it's not
Right.
working, you know, sometimes it's just not your qadr. I'm sure you've
Right.
met people who have turned up in Egypt, and from the moment they've landed to the moment they've left, everything has gone wrong. It's like Allah
Yeah.
just, it wasn't in their qadr to stay there. It wasn't right for them. I had the same happen to a
Right.
brother. He came, he landed in Istanbul, and everything went wrong. It just wasn't for him. Like Allah did not give him the good experience.
Right.
You know, I just took my parents to
Right.
Morocco, and I was thinking, oh no, they're gonna see, you know, everything bad and the dirt and the prostitution and
Right.
the sihr and subhanallah, Allah gave them a good experience. They didn't see anything bad. You know, it's your qadr. Sometimes that you will just be exposed to certain things because it's a way of guiding your heart to somewhere where you're supposed to be. You know, at the end of the day,
Right.
you know,
That's right.
it's not for everyone. And just
Right.
because somebody has a bad experience, it doesn't mean you're going to have that bad experience, and the vice
Right.
versa, etc. So yeah,
Right.
subhanallah, it's been nice chatting to you.
No,
And
let me
yeah,
make a point real
yeah,
quick
sure.
before we go.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, I think sometimes, like if you are in, let's say you're in the States, right? And you want to go from Illinois, let's go, you want to go to Chicago, from Chicago to Miami, right? Uh, it might cost, I don't know what it costs these days, but let's just say it costs $200, for example, to go from there to there and back, right? It's a difference when you think of it if you're in the UK and you want to go to Chicago, right?
yeah,
So now you have to go from UK to this, it's this many hours on the plane and blah, 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 blah. And then you come back to the UK and you say, okay, I want to go to Miami. Now you got to go from UK to Miami again. So I think sometimes people don't realize that if you're in this part of the world, if you want to go from Istanbul to Saudi Arabia, is what, how much? $200. It's like going in the States
yeah,
to from Chicago to wherever. So people have to understand that, and then that will make more sense. It's not about you have this bag of cash and then you just can go everywhere. It's not like that. You can plan it out. You
yeah,
can take the trip you yourself or you and your wife. You go and then you set up everything when you get there, and it'd be nice for us to have some type of network. I don't know how it can work, but somebody can meet you. It doesn't have to be us. It could be locals.
yeah,
They meet you at the airport, take you to a place, and say, okay, give you a tour of the place. Say this is where this is, and this is where that is. and then you can go out with your family or whatever, and then come back and then say, okay, next weekend we're going to go over here, just so that you can kind of experience the place.
Yeah.
So inshallah, man. Yeah, that's my 2 cents, man.
Yeah.
I
No,
hope that Muslim Hijrah, I hope that people get a chance to visit the Muslim world. They see it's much, much bigger than their local community.
Yeah. And I'd just like to tell people, like people in the West, like, as I said, we know not everyone is able to do Hijrah, we know it's difficult for some people, but you can have the intention and make dua and Allah open things up, and you can also plan for it. You can work at getting some sort of qualification so you can go and get a job in the Middle East or whatever it may be. One last thing I'd like to mention is for those of you who have a back home, right? You've got to check it out. If you're Somali, if you're Pakistani, if you're Algerian, wherever you're from, that you got to go and check out back home, because most of these guys can get a passport. They've got access to the country, Pakistan, for instance, it's an amazing place. If you speak Urdu, you can, and you're from the West, you're going straight in, at a high level. You could probably government level, right. People need to really consider back home as well. If you have a back home, don't overlook that as well. And like you said, make the most of it. But one thing we want to see make Hijrah back online. I mean, you've got to set it back up. I mean, if you can get a website or Facebook or Instagram, and then even if they take the YouTube down, you can just keep renewing it, because the information it's always needs to be renewed anyway. That's the beauty of the content of what you're providing. So
yeah, we're working on it. Alhamdulillah. We're working on it, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, bro. I'm gonna have to go because the thing's about to cancel on Zoom anyway. So
no, man, it's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure, bro.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.